Good evening. We're ready to start the forum. Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the candidate forum for Assembly District 7. I am Mary Kay Williams, a member of the League of Women Voters of Sacramento and tonight's moderator. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan, nonprofit volunteer organization of women and men. Our mission is to encourage participation in government through education and advocacy. The League does not support, oppose, or evaluate candidates for political parties. However, we do take positions on public policy issues, including ballot measures and legislation based on our thorough studies and consensus process. If you're interested in helping to make democracy work and public policy, we welcome you to join the Sacramento League. We have active committees working on voter education and engagement, homelessness and housing, criminal justice, climate change, and ranked choice voting. Questions were solicited in advance from this community. The candidates in alphabetical order are Josh Hoover, Sana Motamaki, Amy Slavinsky. Each candidate will make a 1.5 minute opening statement. They will have 1 minute for answers. To respond to questions, they will make a 1 minute closing statement. The lead timekeeper tonight is Paula Lee in the front row. Look there to see when you have 30 seconds left and when to stop. She'll hold up the signs. I will rotate who answers. Thank you. And thank you, candidates, for being here tonight to meet voters and answer questions for running for the Assembly District 7. We will begin with an opening statement from Josh Hoover. 1.5 minutes.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I'm Assemblyman Josh Hoover. I've had the honor of representing the 7th Assembly District for the last few years. It's a community where I was very pleased to grow up and a community where I'm now raising my 3 kids. It's wonderful to be with everyone tonight. I am a proud member of the Bipartisan Problem Solvers Caucus, a group of 12 Democrats and 12 Republicans committed to working together to solve some of California's biggest challenges. And I look forward to getting into tonight more of the work that we've done together. In my first 3 years, we've accomplished quite a bit. We passed a bipartisan audit of homelessness spending in California that uncovered $24 billion in spending, all while we have seen homelessness skyrocket in our state. And we are going to continue to working to solve those challenges. I also was the author of the Phone Free Schools Act to get our kids off of their screens during the school day, to improve their academic performance and their social connection, and ultimately their mental well-being. I also was a strong supporter of Proposition 36, to support public safety in our community, to hold criminals accountable for retail theft. And I was very grateful for the voters for supporting that initiative to lock up criminals that are committing crimes rather than locking up the toothpaste that is in our stores. Lastly, this year we are laser focused on bringing down the cost of living for all Californians, improving government transparency and accountability, and protecting public safety by stopping the release of violent sexual predators back into our communities. These are all topics I look forward to getting more into in detail as the night progresses. But in the meantime, I will just close by saying that I desperately believe that we need balance and we need common sense in Sacramento now more than ever. And I will continue to fight for those values. Thank you.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight. My name is Sanaz. I'm local. I was raised in Citrus Heights. I went to school in Fair Oaks. I live in Rancho Cordova, and I've also lived in Orangeville. So touching all areas. I'm passionate about our community. I'm passionate about the environment and animals and our people. I'm bilingual. I'm a first-generation American, a college graduate, a daughter, a wife, a leader, a learner, and a listener. Most importantly, a friend. I obtained my bachelor's degree from Cal State Northridge in environmental health. And I served as a licensed real estate agent in our community, as well as a tax preparer. So I have experience in taxes. I have experience as a caregiver and a small business owner. I have experience in many fields that I think can help our community thrive. I guess you could call me your average Joe or average Joanne. I also am stepping up to serve the people of Sacramento because I'm committed to building a future where everybody feels safe. I also want to help everyone feel valued and empowered. I stand apart because I'm not beholden to any specific interests or status quo. I'm not tied to any political party or any big corporate affiliations. I also want to help expand economic opportunities for those around us and fight for fair wages. I want to invest in education, gain easy access to healthcare, fight the housing crisis, which is very important, help with emergency preparedness, and the like. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And next, Amy.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. And thank you to the League of Women Voters and the Art and Arcade Advocates for having us. I grew up here in Fair Oaks and Carmichael. I attended public schools and was dependent on food stamps, Medi-Cal, and subsidized housing. I started working at the age of 12 to help our family make ends meet. I spent the last 40 years serving in our California public school system. I began my career as a teacher and raised a young family on an educator's salary. I know what it means when the system is there for you and when it's not, and I believe we can do better. After serving as a teacher for 10 years, I was an elementary and middle school principal for 14 years. During the past 10 years, I served as the superintendent of Amador County Unified School District and the deputy superintendent of San Juan Unified right here in District 7. Which serves nearly 40,000 students in 65 schools. I'm known as someone who works well with others to solve complex, challenging problems, multi-million-dollar budget shortfalls to severe staffing shortages to emergency response. And I'm also known as someone who takes action to do the right thing, even when it's hard. I'm grateful that we're having this discussion today about our unincorporated communities not supported by a dedicated city council and its resources, such as the police department, because I live in one now and have for many years. I see how we don't get the same attention or support because we're unincorporated. It shows up in the quality of our roads, our public safety, our public services, response to homelessness, and more. I'm looking forward to having a deeper conversation with you tonight.
Thank you for your opening statements. And now we're going to start with the questions.
Telling the truth because I started.
Thank you. I forgot to say, please silence your cell phones. And also, please refrain from applause. If you want to of Senate District 6 and more than half of the residents in Assembly District 7 live in urbanized, unincorporated communities. What will you, as member of the legislature, do to establish and maintain communications with constituents in our unincorporated communities? How can they be assured you have listened to their concerns and are doing your best to be responsive?
Well, thank you for the question. And I think it really is one of the most important questions that we're probably going to answer tonight. When you look at our state, so half of the 7th Assembly District is unincorporated. There are 3 incorporated cities within the 7th Assembly District, but half of the constituents that I represent live in unincorporated communities, and so often they are left out of the equation. One of the things that frustrates me the most and continues to frustrate me the most in Sacramento is that, for example, our roads. When we talk about the gas tax, we currently pay the highest gas taxes in the entire nation. But we actually drive on the 46th ranked roads in the entire nation in California. But when you take Sacramento County in context of that, and you actually take unincorporated Sacramento County, we have some of the worst roads in the entire state of California. This is something that needs to change. One of the reasons for this is because politicians are consistently trying to pass bills that raid the gas tax in California and take that money to other priorities. As a member of the Transportation Committee, I've continuously opposed those bills and will continue to do so.
Thank you. And next we'll have Sanaz.
So as someone who's been a resident of an unincorporated city, I take the responsibility personally. I would like to set up monthly in-town meetings where residents and small businesses could speak in person to talk about important issues. I want to introduce channels such as online platforms, social media, and websites to bring in questions, comments, and concerns. These would include, but not be limited to, like online chats, and have ready availability to communicate with anyone who needs a problem solved. We need some advisory groups made up of local residents to tackle those important issues that you guys think are important, not just what politicians think.
Thank you. And next is Amy.
Thank you so much. Communication, two-way communication is critical. As an educator, I've always had an open door policy, and it's what I will have in this campaign and when I'm elected. Anybody is and will be welcome to approach me. I will make sure that all residents feel heard. And yes, for sure, more than half of Assembly District 7 consists of folks who live in the unincorporated areas. I was talking to a family member the other day, and clearly that is not a concept that is well understood. So Carmichael, Fair Oaks, Foothill Farms, Gold River, Mather, McClellan Park, North Highlands, Orangeville, Rosemont, all really critical areas to make sure that we're communicating. As a principal and a supervisor of schools in San Juan Unified, and yes, even as a superintendent, I firmly believe that I had to be in schools and classrooms on a very regular basis, 2 to 3 mornings a week for 2 to 3 hours at a time, because I needed to see what was working and what was not working firsthand. And when I'm elected, that is the same approach that I will take. I will be in the community, I will be listening, I will be responding and advocating for all of our constituents.
Thank you. The next question, and Sanaz, you're going to start with this one. The topic is unincorporated community governance. Unincorporated communities do not have mayors and city councils to tend to local issues. County boards of supervisors have area-wide duties like welfare, public health, voting systems, tax collection, courts, and jails that typically take priority over unincorporated communities. California Unincorporated says this is unfair and undemocratic, has noted that state policies are biased against the formation of new cities, and has listed several needed revisions to state laws. Will you carry legislation to support self-determination and make it easier and less expensive for new cities to be formed if local citizens want that?
I absolutely would carry legislation for that. I think that our current laws need reform and modernization. We need a pathway to self-governance. I would emphasize working with local communities and organizations to make sure the unincorporated communities are heard on the important issues, and work with the residents directly on grants and bills for funding. I would want to streamline the process to make it faster and efficient, and make sure cities don't stay stuck in the process. We need to also work on modernizing the funding formulas to make sure that there's appropriate funding, and make sure that voter-led initiatives are held and not politically influenced decisions, but people-influenced decisions.
Thank you. Amy is next.
Thank you so much for the question. I definitely understand the concerns that have been expressed by families and family members, because I live in an unincorporated area and have. What I hear now, the concerns vary. They vary from public safety to roadways and transit to access to well-maintained safe parks and other family areas. And so as I hear those concerns, I want to take those very seriously for our families now as well as for the future. So to answer the question, yes, I will support my fellow residents of the unincorporated communities by listening and advocating for what they need. And if there are citizens living in particular communities that are seeking cityhood, I would want to spend time with them, study that with them, listen to them, and advocate for and with them.
Thank you. Josh?
Incorporating a new city in California is a monumental task. When you look at some of the cities in the 7th Assembly District, Citrus Heights just hit 25 years old and finally was released from the tax requirements that were put on it by the county when it incorporated 25 years ago. Rancho Cordova, it's just 20 years old. It's been fantastic to see those communities continue to thrive after achieving cityhood, but we do need to make it easier in California to achieve cityhood. And there are extreme disincentives for counties, especially when it comes to taxes, to allow that to happen. It would be very advantageous for the legislature to make changes to make that possible. But we also need to remember that those communities that cannot incorporate or that do not become part of incorporation, we need to take care of them too. And we need to make sure that we're continuing to meet their needs regardless of whether or not they incorporate. That means continuing to get more road funding for them from the state level, continuing to support their small businesses, and continuing to support their local economies.
Thank you. Next question, and we'll be starting with Amy on this one. It's about annexations. The Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act, the LAFCO law, makes it easy for cities to annex unincorporated land, even when residents of proposed territory for annexation don't want it. By comparison, the law makes it hard for residents of unincorporated areas to gain local control by forming a city. Unincorporated communities often experience predatory annexation, whereby powerful cities grab land for development purposes that will enrich cities' coffers, even when doing so interferes with the adopted community general plans of the unincorporated communities. If elected, would you support reforms to level the playing field and protect unincorporated communities that oppose annexation?
Thank you so much for the question. I want to just say straight up that this is an area of learning for me, and I will want to work with the constituents to learn more about this and work side by side with them to make sure that their concerns are heard and addressed and achieve the goals that they are setting out to achieve. I did have an opportunity to look at the LAFCO documents, and I pulled out a quote that I want to share with you. It goes like this: local agency formation commissions have numerous powers under the Act, but those of primary concern are the power to act on local agency boundary changes and to adopt spheres of influence for local agencies. Among the purposes of LAFCOs are the discouragement of urban sprawl and the encouragement of the orderly formation and development of local agencies. When I'm elected, it will be my goal and my desire to work with the constituents who are experiencing these challenges and support them in the areas that they need support.
Thank you. Josh?
Thank you. It's interesting because I think this is a very much a case-by-case basis situation where there are many instances where if communities oppose incorporation, their voice needs to be heard. There are many instances where incorporation could actually lead to the benefit of those areas. And so I think the important thing for the existing law and for the legislature to continue to consider is the fact that the community voice in any situation is always heard. And I think that's something that unfortunately in Sacramento, we tend not to put enough stock in. We tend to take away local control. We tend to sort of mandate on communities what they have to do and really refuse to listen to the actual residents in those communities. We have to make sure we're doing that regardless of the situation. And those are the reforms that I would support.
Thank you. It's enough.
This is also a big learning area for me. I did take some time to look at the law and the act that was passed that needs some reform. But I truly believe it just depends on what the communities want. I mean, as a public servant, I would be a voice for the communities. So working with what the majority would like and getting that introduced, as well as taking into account the environment and the impacts that annexing land would have on our environment as well.
Thank you. Next question, and we'll be starting with Josh on this one. It's about the Delta Tunnel. Since the Pat Brown administration, the state has tried to send water around the Delta for water uses to the south. The fiscal $20 billion to $100 billion and environmental costs of doing so are massive, with disproportional benefits. The last incarnation of the project would bury a large tunnel pipe under the Delta. Counties surrounding the Delta, including Sacramento County, along with local water purveyors, have strenuously opposed the project. There are far less costly alternatives, such as fixing leaky pipes in the state's conveyance system, deploying purple pipe systems, and adopting best practices for water consumption. Do you support or oppose the project? Starting with Josh.
Thank you. I am a strong opponent of the Delta Tunnel project, and I will tell everyone in this room that this is a fight that is not over. In fact, in 2 days, a bill is coming before the Appropriations Committee, where I'm the vice chair, that has received no votes in the state assembly. That is a very secretive way of continuing and extending deadlines for this Delta project to be able to happen. I've already committed to voting no on that legislation. I will likely be the only no vote on that bill as it heads to the assembly floor. And I think it's critical that everyone in our community is supporting the protection of our water resources in Northern California. But more than that, the state needs to do more to capture the water that pours down from the sky every single year in California. Voters voted over a decade ago on a water bond, and not a single surface water project has been built in over a decade. That is unacceptable. That needs to change. We need to invest in infrastructure to capture the water that we have, and that is what's truly going to solve our water crisis in California.
I oppose. I believe in sustainability and conservation. So I think fixing what we have first before adopting new ideas is very important. I think that we don't necessarily have the funding and resources we need to do that, and those could be appropriated to other areas where we need more funding. And I just don't see it as a sustainable thing in the long run. Like, we need to adopt better practices for our groundwater and, of course, catching our rainwater. And there's other options like desalinization that, if we needed to, we can adopt. But I truly don't think that the tunnel is the best for our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question. So as I'm listening to my colleagues here and I'm thinking about the Delta Tunnel project, I'm also thinking about my childhood years growing up in the Fair Oaks and Carmichael areas. I would ride my bike all the way down California Avenue to Ansel Hoffman Park to play in the American River, to swing off the vines and jump in the river and play with my older siblings. And so the waterways here, the Sacramento River, the American River, the Delta Project are all extremely important to our community. And I will need to study the legislation, the potential legislation around this a little bit further to make sure that I understand it before taking an oppose or a support position on it. I do agree that we need water infrastructure that can effectively capture and store water when it comes, usually in abundance, to prepare for when we don't have it. And a question that I would have for Assemblyman Hoover, when he states the state needs to do more to capture water, he is currently working in the assembly and for the state, and I would want to know a little bit more about his role in that.
Thank you. Next question, and we'll be starting with Sanaz on this one. More water. American River, trees, and flood control. This indirectly applies to this district because it's upstream of the project. The lower American River and its tributary streams are important for its navigational, historic, fish and wildlife habitat, and recreation values. The Corps of Engineers has undertaken erosion control construction along the lower American River that has removed heritage oaks, destroyed natural habitats, and interfered with recreation within the American River Parkway. Phase 2 of that project threatens hundreds of additional trees and acres of habitat further upstream within the parkway. The State Central Valley Flood Protection Board rubber stamped the Corps' additional work. Local citizens have brought suit seeking bioengineering alternatives. The work is now on hold. Where do you stand on this, and do you intend to engage in any way?
As an environmentalist, this is one of the main reasons that I'm running for this position. I really want to take care of our rivers, our trees, our land, the air we breathe. It's very important to me because we need to keep this clean for our future generations. I would support keeping things sustainable and conserving that land. I don't think that we should be digging into our rivers or tapping into those resources. We need to keep them, ready for future generations.
Thank you. And Ann?
Jamie?
Amy?
Yes,
Sorry.
that's okay. That's okay. So thank you so much for asking the question. Much like my colleague here, I'm very concerned about our climate. I'm very concerned about our environment. And when I hear that the Corps of Engineers is working in such a way that interferes with current activity and recreational activities for our students, our children, and our families, that causes me to be concerned. And so I will want to research that further and make sure that we are making decisions, that I am making decisions in the assembly that are going to benefit our families.
And Josh?
One of the things that makes the Sacramento region such an amazing place to live is our outdoor recreational activities, is resources like the American River. We absolutely have to work to preserve those. And, I've had the wonderful opportunity to meet with a number of stakeholders concerned about this project over the last couple of years, to engage with state agencies and federal agencies on the project, to really express our concerns and share the concerns of the community when it comes to this project. Now, it is obviously critical that we are building the correct infrastructure to manage our floodplains and manage potential flooding. But at the end of the day, we have to do it in the right way. And I think it's really understandable that the community has raised concerns in this particular area. And I look forward to continuing to work with all the groups looking to protect the American River on this project. Thank you.
Next question has to do with land use, and we'll be starting with Amy on this one. Land use decisions in Sacramento County's unincorporated areas are made in corporate boardrooms in Seattle, Boise, Cincinnati, Silicon Valley, and elsewhere for rubber stamp ratification by the county. The county's community general plans are woefully out of date. Updates to the county general plan typically involve modifications that make it easier for investors to build whatever they want anywhere. There is only one appointee on the County Planning Commission from our area. As a result, our unincorporated communities have ghost stories and failing malls, corporate tax write-offs, and an abundance of discount stores, storage facilities, and drive-through chicken sandwich places. Now the state is overruling existing neighborhood zoning in a desperate attempt to meet the need for new housing. Our communities are the losers. Should the state revise its land use laws to empower unincorporated areas and favor locally driven land use decisions? And this is for Amy.
Can you restate that just the very last part of the question?
Should the state revise its land use laws to empower unincorporated areas and favor locally driven land use decisions?
Thank you for the question. For me, the core of this question is around housing. And as I look around all of the various communities of Assembly District 7, I see that many folks are struggling with affordability, and affordability is near and dear to me as well, having been raised within poverty. And so I want to make sure that folks have affordable housing wherever they go. And if that means that we need to revisit how land is used and how the process is determined for those land use decisions, then we will need to do that. I would also like to add that building more housing is essential. And as I look around Assembly District 7, I see that there are some parts of the district where affordable housing is coming up. For example, in Citrus Heights, there are some plans for the Sunrise Mall, not fully underway yet, I understand, but also in Folsom and Rancho Cordova. And so I will want to make sure that we're doing the very best that we can to provide affordable housing for our families and individuals.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you. So I think, as I said on a previous question, it's really critical that no matter what, there's always local control, there's always community input on any project. I would have to agree with my colleague on the other side of the table here that We also are facing an incredible housing affordability crisis in California. And it's something that's really impactful for me specifically as someone that's raising a young family in our community. I've got a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 17-year-old. And, more and more young people are realizing that it's just impossible to afford to live in California, and they're opting to move to other states in order to make their lives possible. I really want to see my kids stay in our great state, to stay near their families and to raise their grandkids here. I do want to make that more possible. We definitely need more housing in California, but we have to do it in the right way. And I think that's the important part, is if we are going to build housing, it has to require community input, and it has to be done in a smart way. We cannot just have unlimited growth. And that's, so I would say a little bit of both, but I appreciate the question. Thank you.
What's the next?
We need the land use laws to really help the community and help the unhoused. I agree with both of them here that, I don't think that certain land should be for commercial properties. I don't think that it should be for big businesses. I think we need to really create housing for those in need. We have too many people on our streets and not enough space for them to go. We need to adapt laws that better help them get a roof over their head.
Thank you. Next question, and we'll be starting with Josh on this one. It's on wayfinding. Arden Arcade has 15 off-ramps along Business 80 and 4 along Highway 50. Yet only the eastbound Expo Boulevard off-ramp has directional signs. Gold River, Rosemont, Foothill Farms, and other unincorporated places lack directional signs. Off-ramps at Business 80 eastbound and Watt westbound from Highway 50 have directional signs for Carmichael, but there are no signs telling westbound Highway 50 drivers they can get to Carmichael from Sunrise. Should Caltrans improve the freeway signage for unincorporated communities? If so, what would be your role?
Absolutely, yes. I think this is a fantastic challenge that you've highlighted, or that this question is highlighted. It's interesting. I actually had the opportunity to work on a similar issue in my first year in the legislature. The Aerospace Museum of California came to us and asked us if we would work with Caltrans to get a sign put up to let people know that there's this amazing aerospace museum in our community. We were able to successfully pass a resolution on that to get Caltrans to agree to fund that initiative, and we look forward to unveiling and the ribbon cutting for that sign in the next few months. What I will say is that it was far harder to do that than